Guys, I am here eating some orzo que caftetes, or meatballs, and I thought I'd make a little video just talking about some of the things that people never tell you about Greece. My husband and 2 kids, we went last year for a week, and then we went this year for a month, and before we went, we did so much research. We were watching so many vlogs on YouTube. We were like listening to all these different people's experiences, and a lot of people were saying really similar things, but these are the things that I feel like nobody mentioned that are really good to know. I will be leaving some timestamps, so feel free to like skip through, and don't mind the band-aids on my hand. I have eczema right now. It's really sad. Number one, I feel like people don't talk enough about the night culture in Greece. Like, and obviously this applies to the places I went and the time of year I went. We went during the summer, during July and August this year, and then last year we went in September, and we were in Athens and Kalamata for the most part, so like the Peloponnese. The nightlife was so crazy and so surprising to me. Basically, there are people out like in the morning. There's definitely people who wake up like early in the morning around like 7 a.m. But it gets hot like really quickly, and then it stays getting hot and hotter and hotter and hotter. Like 3 and 4 p.m. are the hottest parts of the day, which I already knew that because I grew up in California, which is also Mediterranean, and it's true there too. 4 p.m. is definitely the hottest part of the day. But people really come out around 11 p.m. If you want to see it shine, if you want to see all the people who live in that town and the kids, you will be out until 11 p.m. It's like around 9 p.m. maybe that people start like strolling out. So if you were to go out and like try to have lunch like at like 3 p.m., places would be open. There are places to eat, but there would be like nobody there. There'd be no one on the streets. It would look like a ghost town. If you were to come back at like 11 p.m., everybody would be out, and it's so cool. I love it so much. It just feels so much safer to be outside at night when there's more people, and they light everything up so it's like really easy to see everything. And I honestly thought too, like, oh, maybe this will like affect light pollution or something, but you can still see the stars. Here where I live in Pennsylvania, the light pollution is so bad you can like barely see the stars at night. So even though they have it all lit up at night, you can still see the stars. It's not really that bad. And yeah, it feels so cool to just feel how alive the city comes at night. And then because everybody and their mother is coming out at 11 p.m. to just like have dinner and like start their evening pretty much, none of the bars or like the club scene really starts until 2 a.m. Me and my husband like went out. We wanted to go out and like check out the club scene a little bit, and I could not believe how many clubs they opened at 11, but none of them like started and like really let people in until 2 a.m. You had to call and like make a reservation and like reserve a place in there. And I like kept reading online and hearing from people that like they only let certain people in. So we did not go to any of those clubs. We did find like a cute restaurant bar by the beach that was very club kind of vibe. Like they had a DJ and there were all sorts of people like of different ages there, and there was no cover charge to get in. You just like ordered at the bar, and it was packed. It was poppin'. Like the club scene in Greece is legit. Other thing I think people don't talk enough about is how family friendly it is in Greece. Like I seriously tried to look this up so many times when I was doing research online, like what is it like bringing a family to Greece? And I saw all these things that were like, oh, you can like rent a scooter when you're in Athens. Like there's little things you can do. There's like little museums and stuff. No. It is crazy. At least, okay, when I will speak more for Kalamata since we spent the most time there, but there's so much to do for kids. There are obviously playgrounds. Like there are so many playgrounds there. It's kind of too hot for them unless it's like nighttime, but along the beach there's a playground there, and you can go at night. There's also like this kind of carnival thing set up where there's like a bounce house and bumper cars and like all sorts of arcade games and stuff. And then there's this whole separate huge bounce house, which by the way is €6. You pay €6. Your kid can go in there and play in this fenced off area where there's like a little jungle gym thing and like this big blow up cat thing that they can play in. And there are people in there who work there who are like watching the kids, and so nobody's getting hurt, nobody's fighting. It's like a very chill time. And then right outside of there you can like sit at the tables and be served food and drinks, and it's like a full menu. You can get like gyros and all sorts of like actual food, and then you can get like beer and drinks and like ouzo and like other things too, and just chill while your kid plays. And it's like it's midnight. It's amazing. And there's so many kids out. It's so cool. It's really, really cool. It is 10 o'clock at night. I just ordered a beer. My son is running around in this massive jump house with all these other children. Slides, jumpy thingies, climby thingies. There's a menu where you can order ice cream, coffee, fries, literally anything. And there are parents and everybody just hanging out. Bright as daylight because there's so many lights out. Greece is a parent's dream. Besides that, like even during the day, there's like this huge blow up thing that the kids can play on, like on the water. And then some of the restaurants I saw have like their own blow up jumpy thing in the back of the restaurant, or they'll have their own little playgrounds in the back of the restaurant. There was this one restaurant that has like a pool in it. Like there's just so much for kids to do. You walk around and you can just feel like this is a place for families. Something I observed, and again, maybe this was just the places that I was, and maybe this was just because we were in public, you know, I don't know how people are behind their closed doors, but in general, like the society vibe towards children was a very welcoming and very safe environment. As in, like, if a kid was like running around, like, you know, being loud and like and running, no adults were like looking at that kid like, what is that kid doing? They weren't looking annoyed at the parents. The parents were like very gentle and like quiet voiced with the children, and you could tell just like seemed really patient. And in America, it's just really different. Like if you take your kid out in public and they're being loud and like acting like a kid, like everybody just seems so annoyed with you and so annoyed with your child. Like you are just such a nuisance for like bringing your kid out in public. So this was like a real change for me. Also in general, like adults and parents just for the most part seem overwhelmed and frustrated and annoyed by their children. So to just see parents like be so patient and kind with their children was just like really eye-opening for me. That's like a big thing that I'm personally taking away from Greece. And so I just think it's a really beautiful place to bring your children. So we went to Olympia and Delphi as well, and we went to like the small towns outside of there, and a place in Athens as well. Like, you know, we kind of stayed all over. Every single town that we stayed in had some sort of square that was like surrounded by restaurants. And at night, again, like 11 p.m., midnight, the children like gathered at this square, and there was just all these children playing. Like, I'm gonna cry fucking talking about it because it's just like so beautiful, so communal, and again, just so welcoming and safe feeling. But all these kids come together and they play. They're like riding the scooters around. They're like playing soccer. They're like playing with bubbles. And around them are just like parents, like sitting, having food and having drinks and just like having a nice time. We went to this really, really small town outside Adelphi, Amphisa. I'm definitely not saying that right. But that was like such a small town that people were like looking at us, like trying to see if they knew us because it was such a small town. But it wasn't like weird. Like our son still went and played with all the other kids, even though he spoke very little Greek. They were still very welcoming, and like he played and had a great time. We sat and had food, and it was a great time. And this was literally every town had a little square like this, and it would be parents who were out, and there would be like older people, older couples and stuff who would be out. There would be people who would be out who like didn't have kids, that were like obviously on a date. Like it didn't matter. It was just like this community thing. You come to the square at night and you just relax, have a drink, have something to eat, and yeah, that will lead into my next point. I feel like people don't talk enough about how affordable the food is in Greece. And I think that's because, for the most part, people go to the islands. And I really wonder if a lot of these things don't apply to the islands, especially things like it being kid friendly, but especially it being affordable. Like, and when I say the islands, you know, I mean Santorini and Mykonos, even though obviously there are lots of other islands. When people go to like Santorini and Mykonos, those things are like so controlled because it is such a touristy place. Things are crazy expensive, I already know. And things were kind of expensive in Athens too. I have obviously, again, I think it depends on the neighborhood you're in. And we were in the neighborhood that's like, I forget what it's called, but it's right next to the Parthenon. And so it's like a really touristy place too. It didn't feel super touristy like looking around. But anyways, the food was still a little pricier. But there were still some things that were affordable. But when we went to the smaller towns, like I said, like in Kalamata or around Olympia or Delphi, it was very, very, very easy for the four of us to eat dinner for 35 euros. I am not even joking. We live in America. We go out to eat, the four of us, easily $100, $150, sometimes $200 if we're all getting like drinks and dessert. Easy. We would get, I will say, like as a little side tip, to go for the platters. Most restaurants have some sort of platter available on the menu, and some of them depend upon like how many people. We would get like a platter that was for two people. That's what it would say, platter for two. It'd be a meat platter or a grill platter or something like that. And it would come with like pork and chicken and then a bunch of vegetables on the side and French fries. And like, that was a perfect meal for all four of us. Like, we would just have so much fun. Oh, and keftedes and meatballs as well. We would just have so much fun, like picking what we wanted off the plate. And it was, yeah, literally a full meal. And then my husband and I would get the house wine. You get like a liter or a half liter for very cheap, very affordable. And it's so delicious when it's really hot out and you get like this cold white wine. Or the Mythos or Alpha beer. The beer is like, it's a really light kind of beer, but because it's really hot, it tastes really good. And it usually comes in these like bigger bottles because they're meant to be shared, which is, again, just really sweet. I just really love that, like, just communal vibe. So yeah, very, 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 very affordable food. It was very easy for us to spend less than $100 a day on food for the four of us. So if you're trying to budget it out, I would say you could easily spend like, yeah, less than $100 per day for your family. Everything is just so affordable. Also, a little side note, we like one time saw this sign for fast food at like a cafe, and then it was like souvlaki and coffee. And I just fucking love that so much. Their version of fast food is souvlaki and coffee. Just, I love it. Okay, and speaking of food, another thing, I think this is the third thing that I think people don't talk enough about in Greece, is the freaking bakeries. There are so many amazing bakeries, like they're everywhere, just like the coffee shops and the bars and the restaurants and everything like that. But there's so many bakeries and they're so delicious. There's such a wide array of things to get. There's obviously like things that are very special and unique to Greece, like kourarakia and paximadia and the loukoumades and baklava. But there's also like just all sorts of other things. There's little cakes and pies and pastries, like, and cookies, just, and ice creams. Like, oh, like, why didn't anybody tell me how much Greece loves bakeries? There's so many delicious, yummy things there. And we stopped in bakeries like everywhere we went. We'd be like, we'd eat dinner and then we'd be like, okay, we're not going to get dessert here. We're going to go get dessert at one of these bakeries. And it was always a wise choice. And it's so fun, and they bake like late at night too. They don't just bake in the morning like a lot of the places here in America. They'll wake up early in the morning, bake, and then by the end of the day, everything's like old. Like you'll walk into these bakeries and it smells fresh. They'll be like, we just made these. Do you want some? I love bakeries so much. It was so good. Highlight of the trip. Something that surprised me is that there are so many pharmacies in Greece. Like, they are everywhere. There's so many pharmacies, but they're not necessarily like prescription drug pharmacies. You go in there and there's like, it's a lot more holistic. It's a lot more natural remedies, and it's a lot more like full body care, which is really cool. Most of them do close in the middle of the day, like during the hot times, but then they open back up in the evening. And even though they're closed during those times, a lot of them also have vending machines outside, which it just blew my mind. And these vending machines have like the coolest things in them. They have like, obviously, like condoms and stuff, and like tampons and pregnancy tests, which is just crazy, but also like band-aids and toothbrushes and toothpaste, just so many things. And that is amazing to me because they're accessible for so many people. You don't have to like walk up to somebody, especially if you're buying something like a pregnancy test or something you can do more in secret, you can have access to at any time of the day because they're there all night. And I don't know, something like that could I really feel like it could save someone's life. And I don't understand like how America is like so advanced, yet we still don't have shit like that. Like, don't be like, oh, they have one in New York, like cool for New York. Okay. You know what I mean? Like all over, like even in small towns, like why don't we have healthcare items and vending machines? It just makes sense. Everyone kept telling us like how crazy the drivers are in Greece, which by the way, you drive on the same side of the cars you do in America, which is really cool because a lot of places in Europe drive on the other side and it's a whole other thing, so you don't have to worry about that in Greece. But everyone kept saying like the drivers are so crazy, they don't follow rules, and I really didn't think it was that crazy. It really wasn't. I mean, I am someone who's like comfortable driving in the city. Like I will drive in San Francisco, I will drive in LA, I will drive in New York, I will drive in Philly, I will drive in Pittsburgh, like whatever. I will drive in the city. It does not scare me. Like it's a different type of driving. It is when you're driving in the city than when you're driving in a small town. But that's how it is. Like if you're driving in Athens, it's just like driving in a city because it is a city. So it's just as crazy as anywhere like that, but it isn't like particularly crazy where like people stop at red lights. Okay, they like kind of stop at stop signs, just like we do here. Okay, people stop when people are crossing the road, honestly, more in Greece than they do here. There's more respect for pedestrians, for sure. You gotta watch out for the guys on the bikes. They kind of do whatever they want. But honestly, it really wasn't that crazy. There is one thing that's different, like when you're driving on a highway, if you're going slow, they will pass you on the left, like within the same lane, but there's room because the lanes are bigger and the people on the other side, like who are going the opposite way, will like expect it. So they'll like move over. It's not like crazy And honestly, I really appreciated it because here in America, again, that's my comparison, people will just ride your ass. And they'll be really dangerous about it, where they'll be like swerving around you and like being really aggressive, and it feels really unsafe. So it felt really nice to be able to just like scooch over a little to the right, and then someone goes around me, and it just was like chill. You know, it was like, because I was driving through the mountains, I wasn't driving like below the speed limit, but I was wanting to go slower to like see the views. And because it was a road I've never driven on before, so people were passing me, and it was fabulous. It was great. It was like, yes, you want to go fast. You live here. You know where you're going. Please pass me. And there was a safe way to do that. Obviously, if you've never done that before, if that's really new to you, it might freak you out for a minute, but it wasn't unsafe feeling. It wasn't like there wasn't enough room. It wasn't anything crazy. And like I said, it was a lot better than someone like riding your ass and being crazy, or like honking at you and flipping you off as they drive by. Like, it gets really crazy here. Like, I don't know. I think people in America are the crazy drivers. So just wanted to share a little bit of tips that I thought would be helpful to know. They aren't necessarily things that, like, I don't know, people don't really talk about. There's little tips that I think you should know. The first one is when it says toast on the menu, that does not mean a piece of toast with butter on it. It is a ham and cheese sandwich, which is really, really cool. Pretty much anywhere you go, even if they're just serving coffee, if they're just serving beer, even if it just looks like a really tiny place, they will have toast, which is just a ham and cheese sandwich. So if you're really, really hungry during the day and you need just like a quick bite, or if you're just like having a beer and you need like something small to go with it, well, they do usually serve nuts or chips with your beer, which is also really nice to like just have a little thing to snack on while you're drinking, like a closed container thing of nuts. So rad. Anyways, but and the toast is usually like €1 or like 50 cents. It's really affordable, so it's just like a small thing that you can snack on. Or like my kids, whenever they would get hungry or like need a snack, and me and my husband would be fine, so we would just grab one of those. And I don't know, it's really nice. I just think that's good to know, because we definitely saw it on the menu, and at first we thought it was bread with butter. It's not. Another tip is that the open container law is like really, really loose. You can like walk around with an open container, and it's not illegal. It's not against the rules. People don't really do it. You don't like just see a bunch of people walking around with cocktails or like beer or anything like that, but you can take beer to the beach. We were going to like a little private beach, and we brought some beers with us from the restaurant. Or if you wanted, you could like walk down the street, like drinking a beer or something. Even though it's like a big drinking culture, people are drinking wine, people are drinking beer. It's not a big drunk culture. Not that people don't get drunk, okay? Because we definitely walked down one street one night and people were fucking lit, okay, on that one street. But for the most part, for the majority of the time, we did not see a lot of drunk people. People, for the most part, very much contain their composure, but there really isn't an open container law, so you are able to walk around with your drink. Just a little heads up. So they use, for the most part, for everywhere that we went, again, the cafes use condensed milk in the frappes, in the coffee, and like any drink or like coffee drink that you order and you ask for milk in it, for the most part, they're going to put condensed milk in it. So it might taste a little different, or be like a little bit of a different consistency. You can ask for fresh milk, which is fresca gala. So you can ask for fresh milk, and usually they will have it. But for the most part, if you ask for milk in something, they're going to use condensed milk. I don't know. It just felt like a good to know. Also heard before we went, like, to be very wary of pickpocketers, or like leaving stuff in your car, and like cars getting stolen, and like people having rental cars and it says the rental car company on there, so their car getting broken into or getting stolen, or people having their backpacks stolen from them and stuff. And I think that's just like a thing that can happen literally anywhere. But it did not happen to us, nor did we have anything close to it our entire time either time that we were in Greece. Like I had some friends who visited us in California, and I told them they should check out Santa Cruz, which is like, if you don't know, is like a tiny town in California, very like family friendly, very community based little beach town, and they got their car broken into. Which I lived in Santa Cruz, like I had never had anything like that happen. It's just like, I don't know, time and place, like it literally can happen anywhere to anyone, no matter what you do. So that's not like a Greece thing. And Athens too, like we stayed in Athens for a couple weeks, like like nothing like that came close to happening to us. So I think it's important for people who maybe did have that experience to not say that that was like because they were in Greece, because that's not really fair to the entire country, or even to like a city, to say that it's like because of that city. Like you can get pickpocketed, you can get your shit stolen like literally anywhere. So we had a rental car that said Hertz right in the front. Our kids left their shit everywhere, like their backpacks and stuff. We would like leave stuff on the beach and like go jump into the water, all four of us. Like it just like wasn't ever a thing. If anything, I felt like the stuff in Greece, like, and again, the places that we were a lot more safe than I've seen them be in America. Like people were just leaving their bikes laying around, not locked up. Again, I'm from California, where meth is crazy. If you leave literally anything laying around, it will be snatched up so freaking quick, especially a bike. So the fact that I saw bikes unlocked was like mind-blowing to me. But also, there were a lot of other things I saw that made me feel like this feels actually really safe, and I feel like maybe people have a lot more respect for people's things than they do in America. Like, I don't know. I also like didn't see as many homeless people like on that note, which was really interesting because I have heard and read that the economy in Greece is like not great, that people have a hard time getting jobs, that people aren't making like a ton of money. And not to say I didn't see any homeless people, but like, and especially in Athens, like that was definitely more of a thing. But none of the other towns that we were in, like I remember walking around and being like, there's no homeless people here, which was just mind-blowing because it is such a huge problem here in America. It doesn't matter if you're in the city, if you're in a small town, you're in the middle of fucking nowhere, you will see homeless people. It like, and there's so many abandoned houses in Greece too. I was like, man, homeless people have a freaking joy out here. They be having houses out here, you know what I mean? Like if this was America. But yeah, it was really eye-opening to me, and I can't believe it that like America puts itself in this place as this like really rich country when we obviously have a bigger issue with homelessness than they do in Greece, this country that's apparently like a low economy country. So I can't speak to a lot of that. All I can speak to is what I saw with my eyes. Again, I'm not saying it doesn't exist. I know that there's like a lot of immigration and things that are going on in Greece as well, because it's in the middle of all of these different places that are having wars. And I know that there's also a lot of Romani people who live there who also struggle. And I'm not saying that like, that there's no poor people, that there's no homeless people or any of those things, but it definitely wasn't like as in your face and everywhere as it feels like here in the States. For the most part, I will say that we freaking love Greece. We would totally move there 100% and be so happy. There's so many things that I think just make it such a beautiful, peaceful, and safe and wonderful place to be, especially for families. But I also think it's very important to take anyone who says anything about anywhere like with a grain of salt, because it is all about what's important to them. Me and my husband and my family, what's most important to us is coffee and food and having safe places for our family. And so Greece checked all of those boxes. But if you have different things that are important to you, then it might not be the place for you. Everywhere isn't for everyone. So yeah, it's always important to just see for yourself. But if you've been doing in your own research on Greece, I hope this was enlightening. I hope that you heard some things that maybe you didn't know. And thank you so much for listening to this entire video if you made it through the whole thing. If you did make it through this whole video and you've been to Greece, I want to know what was your favorite thing you saw. And if you've never been to Greece, I would love to know what is something that you most want to see there. Okay, I love you guys. One love. I hope you have a beautiful rest of your day. Bye.